social media can be a burden. It can be something that is exhausting, that brings a lot of anxiety, and it can be something that there is a trick and a trade for every way, which way to promote your social media, to post. There are so many rules, post this many times a day, post at 6 a.m. And there's so many rules social media. But what if I had a solution to your problem social media that doesn't involve any of those things? Hi, I'm Kayla Swanson, and I'm your host of Profitable Salon Owner Podcast. And this episode is brought to you by Salon Scale. Charge by what you know, not by what you feel. Today, we are talking all about social media. And in order to have that conversation, I thought who the best be to have that conversation is the queen of social media herself, is Celine Dupuis. Please welcome Celine Dupuis. What's up, Celine? How are you?
I'm great. Happy to be here.
I'm so glad you were able to jump on with me today because I know you are killing the game on social media, and your tips and just having conversations with you about it has just been really beautiful because I just think that that's something that's in your wheelhouse, and you're doing great at it. So before we get started in social media, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you own a salon. Tell me about, tell the audience about you.
All right. Well, I am a salon owner. I own 2 locations, so 2 salons in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. And I guess I certainly have no degree in social media. I don't even have over 10,000 followers. But I think what makes this such a passionate subject for me is that I'm all about just building a real and authentic audience. But more so, I've had to brand myself so many different times as a Redken educator, an HPSA mentor, and as a salon owner. I've had to brand 2 salons. So I've had a lot of experience using social media, and really lived like the ups and downs of the struggles with mental health and what to post, how to post, and how to set boundaries when using social media.
Ooh, I love that. And if you are listening to this and you just said boundaries in social media, that sounds good. I love that. We're going to get into that. So tell me a little bit. So if you actually, Celine was on an episode before, she mentioned branding. And if you want to know about branding, we have a previous episode where Celine was on with me and we talked all about branding. It's really good. So go check that out if you haven't listened to that one yet. But in social media, I just know it's such a struggle because now it's especially since COVID and all this stuff, social media, everything's trending. There's so much out there. What are some of the struggles that you've seen or that people are having with social media?
Yeah. Well, and I feel like in today's climate more than ever, people are just reaching burnout. So what I have observed is that stylists who utilize social media and are active on it build quicker. But then what happens when you have stylists that it's difficult for them? I have stylists that it affects their mental health. It doesn't feel authentic to them. And it's tough to help them through that and to see it as a business tool versus, what most of us do, sometimes not in very great balance, which is just that never ending scroll of consuming info. So I feel like that's the biggest topic for me is if you've ever had a hangover, I'm sure you haven't. I'm sure nobody listening ever has, but there's a physical reaction when you have a hangover. You can have a headache, you can be dizzy, you can be nauseous, you can have anxiety, the shame over. But the exact same thing happens when we consume too much social media. I call that the Insta hangover because you'll have the same physical reaction as you would if you spent a night partying.
Totally. I think in that, I can relate with that so much. It's especially if you not only when you're scrolling and when you're when you're on there for hours on end on yourself, you have that same feeling, but also it's how do you post, and is my stuff going to do well? Or you post something and it doesn't do well. I totally relate with that in terms of building yourself because I'm in charge of our Instagram here for High Performance Salon Academy. And it's like that game. It's almost sickening feeling of other people are doing so much better. And I'm my videos are the same. What's not working? Why is things what is that? So I'm glad we're about to talk about that today.
Yeah, the 3 main things I see that happen when you just what you described, but the 3 main things that happen when you spend too much time without any boundaries, you end up, doing a lot of comparing, comparing yourself to where other people are at, which can lead to jealousy, which is a really ugly feeling. And eventually when you're spinning around and around in those emotions, it just ends up leading you to feel really fatigued. Yeah. So that's why a lot of people feel a shift in their energy after they've spent time, especially you'll hear hairdressers say, well, I'm just working, I'm not on my phone because I'm, consuming, it's for work. But really, we're just doing this on our feed and scrolling down over and over again. And when does it quit?
Yeah, it's almost like a drug. Like you just get like when I'm bored, I'm waiting in line, I'm at it. Sometimes I'm stuck in traffic even. Like you just like what do I do? You go to Instagram. It's almost like such a habit of like I just go and click it. I've had times in my life where I've like removed Instagram on a personal level, removed Instagram from my phone, and watched how many times I go to the Instagram to just kind of bring it into my life. It's like it's so like almost mindless when you kind of go through it. So I love what you said. Jealousy, comparing, and fatigue are like incompatible to having a hangover. And I love that's true. And I think a lot of people listening, if you can relate with that, we're going to start to talk about what can you do to combat that. So what do people do if they're, they're having these feelings towards social media, whether they're aware of it or not? How do people start to shift that? And then what should people focus on in order to change the way that social media is making them feel?
Yeah, I love that. I think if we're talking about, again, like comparison leading into jealousy, I think the first thing, like the first step, is to really get honest about
Mm,
how you're using your social media and to start setting boundaries. So I'm the first to say, like, I'm not always great at this. I think sometimes it can be like a daily struggle. So if you feel like you're not great at this, like, don't feel bad. It's just being aware. So are you actually doing work? I know often, like, the defense mechanism, like my husband will be like, Celine, you're on your phone so much. I'm like, but I'm doing work. It's like, but am I really doing work? So what does that look like? So if you're like, hey, listen, I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes and I have 3 posts to create. When that timer's up, I'm done. Right.
mm,
So it's like creating, like, how much time do you need? Set the boundary, get the work done. And like, I think if you want to scroll or use it like for fun, do that at a separate time so that they don't start to like meld together, because
yeah,
then there is never an end. So I think that's the first
yeah,
thing. When you set that hard boundary, you set that timer and you work when you work, I think that leads less scroll time so that you don't have as much time to actually start comparing yourself to everybody,
wow,
because you're using it for its intended purpose. So that would be
yeah.
step one.
That's good. I love that you were talking about like separating the two. Cause if you have your salon and you're doing you need to do social media because it's a huge part of it, of
Yeah.
promoting yourself and your brand and all that stuff. And so separating, like there's a time for you to work on your creating and setting that time aside. And then
Mhm.
your personal time is separate. That's a really good distinction. I love having these conversations because even for me, like that's a good point. It's like, yeah, you get looking up like, oh, what are some ideas for posting? And you want to see what's trending right now. And then you just start scrolling for 30 minutes. You're like, oh man, I have forgotten that I'm looking for a specific thing right now. So that's a
For
really good point.
sure.
I love that.
And when you approach it like work, like any job, you wouldn't be like, "Oh, it's 10 p.m. I'm inspired, so I'm going to, pull out a bunch of my accounting files and like XYZ." Like, I mean, yeah, sure, maybe sometimes that happens, but like what I would say is like it's planning for the work. So it's like at the beginning of the week, like, what do I have to do this week?
Hmm.
So, I need to make these graphics, I need to schedule 5 posts and write the content. So Monday from noon to 1, I'm going to do that. Right. So
Yeah.
it's like, what do you need to do? And then schedule it into your weekly plan. Because then at 10 p.m., you're not like, oh, I didn't post anything this week. And I think that's what most of us do as hairdressers, because we're exhausted. We're but with clients all day behind the chair. Right.
Yeah.
So, and as salon owners, we're doing other things too. So if you don't actually schedule time for that, you are going to be doing it at 10 p.m. because you're like, man, I haven't posted anything all week.
And then it's stressful and then you're tired and you're resentful and then you're just like, oh, I'm just not going to do it. And then it just becomes, you start to build that like fatigue that we talked about when it gets last minute and it's not a part, like you don't treat social media like it's a part of your job. It's like, oh, it's like an add-on
Mhm.
and an afterthought. You're like, I know I need to do it, but I'm not having the time for it. And you start to get really resentful about it.
It's true. And I think from a stylist perspective, when I ask my team, like, what is your number one challenge? They're all like, work-life balance. Well, it's like, but you work 30 hours a week. So like, how is that like your work? And I mean, our job is hard. I'm not minimizing that by any means, but you work
Yeah.
30 hours a week. Is that really the problem? Or is
Yeah.
your time management when you're not behind the chair the problem? Right. So it's like when we have our team members on a plan and it's like, hey, we're gonna you're going to do 30 minutes a week and schedule your posts for the week. They're happier, they're healthier, but also what boundaries do you have for responding to clients? And I mean, Instagram has like auto responses where you can type in like, if the word like, consultation comes up, you can press the three little dots and it pastes your auto response. That's like,
Wow.
thanks so much for reaching out. I would love to talk to you about a consultation. Here's the link to book. This is how you do it. So you can set all of that up so you're not DMing with your clients all night long.
Wow.
So I think it's like we need to be, I guess, more accountable, and just be honest with ourselves about how we're actually utilizing our time when we're not at work.
Yeah, that's huge. And I love how you talked about, for the stylist, because while it's a lot of similarities too, it's like, you as the owner posting on social media and then the stylist as well. And I love how you touched on how to encourage your stylist to do the same. It's like, if you don't have boundaries, then how do you teach your stylist to have the boundaries that they need in order to be posting? How do you, just quick, I want to touch on this. Like, how do you balance like posting as yourself and posting as your salon and posting like because I know you have your own personal brand, your branding, you post for your salon and then encouraging your stylist. Like, how do you juggle all of that and manage? Like, do you keep track of all those things? How do you personally do that?
I mean, what I would say is, and what we're actually working on with our team is we've created a badge system, much like HPSA has a badge system for its internal members. But it's like, hey, how do you level up? Like, what would be the things? It's like a roadmap. What would be the things that you would need to do? And in social media, like for us, like the top badge is when you actually pay somebody to do your social media for you. So we're actually having those, because stylists would never think, a salon owner would, but stylists are like, man, would I pay somebody? But actually in 2 months, I'm going to be handing that over to somebody for my personal page. And it's like, this is my vision. It's going to be my words, but somebody else is going to be creating, scheduling. And then I can just do my bonus add-ins. But I don't personally, this isn't in my opinion, because different people will say different things. I don't think you need to have a separate hair page and a separate personal page. Like, I think my page is like, first of all, my Instagram is not for my friends and family to like see what I'm doing. That's not the intention of my page. It's for business. I'm a coach. I'm a professional speaker. I'm a salon owner. So those are the things I'm going to be talking about. Leadership. But a lot of that also wraps up into my personal and who I am. Yeah. It's like people buy people, then they buy things. We know Samvia says that. And I think that if people don't see you, even for stylists on their hair page, if it's all hair pictures, nobody knows who you are. You're going to get price shopped, right? No, people want to see who you are.
Completely. And I mean, there's hundreds and thousands of posts of like Instagram pages out there with all a bunch of hair. And so, people want to get to know who you are. If they're going to spend every 6 weeks in your chair, they want to know who you are. And Celine, talking about your Instagram specifically, like you piece in like, hey, this is what I'm up to. And you use your life experiences to post about what you're doing, but then connect it to the business side of you. And like, this is how it's connected to my growth. And it's like, I know, like, I mean, we have a relationship, but I do get to know a lot more about you in how you post and how you share about your life. And I love, you mentioned earlier and a couple times on showing an authentic version of you and creating a relationship to where it's like you're sharing more than just hair, you're sharing more than just business. And then people can tell the difference when you're sharing on Instagram more about yourself and more authentically, which I think is super valuable. So even if you're not there, if you're in social media and you're not even there yet, focus on that as well as like, how do you start sharing more about you? And I think a huge part of that is growing and having a growth mindset in yourself, because then as you have that growth mindset and you are growing as a person, like even sharing those things with people want to know like, who is this person that I'm going to be spending time with, spending my money on, and getting my hair done. And I love that a lot.
Ready to transform your business and improve your salon's profitability? With Lonza's 3-in-1 technology and intermixable shades, your hair color inventory is streamlined with limitless creativity behind the chair. Click the link below to unveil the secret to salon success.
Sustain Beauty Co. has 2 of the best tools to help you save water, time, and a bunch of money. Join the clean water salon movement with EcoHead's water-saving shampoo nozzles and scrummy plant-based microfiber towels. Available at sustainbeauty.co.
Yeah, and I think to go back to so we talked about the insta hangover, like, so setting boundaries is like the cure for the comparison. But then, like, what about, then the jealousy piece when you're looking and you're like, well, why does Kayla have a brand new vehicle? And why does Kayla's job send her to all these cool destinations? What, maybe you feel like you're not as far along as you should be. And I think the cure to that is to start actually building community using your social media. And so what I mean by that is, there are certain topics that are going to drain you as an individual. They're probably different. Yours might be politics. Mine might be cat videos, like whatever it is. But it's like, I'm going to follow people who have the same ideals, the same growth mindset, are into the same things as me. And those are the people that I'm going to build a community with on social media. I've built in my community a great community of women who, a lot of them are small business owners, are doing charitable events. Like our salon just launched in February a huge campaign to raise money for the YWCA because of a connection I made with a local influencer that, like, her and I have like met in person maybe like 3 times, but yet we have this friendship because of our community we've built over social media. And now we're raising money together and making a difference in the community. So building community, I think, is like the second piece to really, I think, get over feeling jealous, because once you actually get a seat at the table, it's like, I think that then I'm not comparing anymore, because you get to know people better. And it's like, I don't have time to be like, well, this person gets to go here, here, and here, because I'm like actually doing things instead of just watching what everybody else is doing.
I love that. I love that a lot. And I think, like, if you're listening, like, I want you to really hear that, like, changing your mindset about social media. It's not just about marketing and like not this big to do and not this like big like weight. It can be something where you can further yourself in your business, and you can build connections with people you couldn't have otherwise met. If they're in different states or different countries or whatever it looks like, you can meet people. You have access to so many people. And if you have that heart going into it, it's like, I'm going to build community, and I'm going to see somebody's page, or I'm going to stumble across somebody and they're like, man, like they have the same values, they post similar to me, they like whatever it looks like, and you start to build those relationships and friendships with people. And social media becomes more of building a community within yourself and having support people. Maybe don't live in your same town, but you can still do work together, which I think is beautiful. What a great point, Celine.
Yeah. And I think the last thing is, again, after you do all that stuff, we talked about fatigue, like the physical symptoms you feel when you've like overdosed on social media. And I think, to fix that, like when you're fatigued from something, I know I've met a lot of people along my 20 years in the industry who like have lost their love like for doing hair or owning their salon. And I think it's going back to the why. So, it's a little cheesy, and I get tired of hearing like build a joy-driven brand. Like we hear like everybody and their dog saying that. But what I would say is like, bring the joy back. So my advice is like, are you just using social media like so that you can post photos of hair? Or like, would you want to make a bigger difference? Because that's where joy is. I don't know, like anyone out there who's ever done work in their community, done charity work, served soup at a soup kitchen, donated money to a cause. You feel like the selfish part of that is it feels good. Yeah. So to me, it's like, how do we bring the joy back to what we're doing? And so like, what is your cause? Like, if you look at my page, I talk about grief, I talk about trauma, and I talk sometimes about chronic illness. Like, I've experienced death. My husband lives his life. He's paralyzed. He's in a wheelchair. I've had a lot of trauma, and I live with a chronic illness, endometriosis. And so it's like, I talk about those things because what fuels me is when I get messages from the hair community and they're like, thank you for sharing this stuff, because we have to go to work and pretend everything's okay and like touch our clients, have that energy exchange. And it's all about them. Salon owners, it's all about our team, right? Like we can't go to work and be like, my dad just died, I'm a mess. Like I want to do nothing but sit in my office and cry because we got things to do, right? Yeah. And so I think if you could use your platform to not only showcase, like maybe it's body positivity, like that's my salon. Like we have ambassadors and we talk about feeling good in your skin. It doesn't matter your size. We want to bring out like who you are in the inside. outside. So it's like when you start to actually talk about the causes that matter to you, it brings so much more joy when you get that message and you're like, we had a message and someone said, I came to your salon because of the body positivity stuff you post. I never felt comfortable going into salons before. And now I walk in and I feel accepted. I feel beautiful, and I don't feel like I have to be something I'm not. So to me, that's how you fix the fatigue, is you figure out what's important to you. Mandy Pulse says, like, what breaks your heart? So, and I know she's been on the podcast. She talks about, like, what breaks your heart? Is it, animal cruelty? Is it low self-esteem? Is it suicide? Like, all these heavy topics. And how can you marry that into what you're doing to bring awareness in like a big and meaningful way?
Are you ready to increase your retention and revenue and convert website traffic to clients? Then you're ready for Maya. Maya creates better business relationships by pairing the right clients with the right beauty professionals. Use promo code HPSA for your first 2 months free. Visit joinmaya.com to get started.
We're Forest, born on the salon floor and built for and by hair and beauty professionals like you. Forest is your marketing, your reporting, your reputation management. You need one easy-to-use system that does it all. Forest. Together, we grow.
Are you tired of not knowing what your hair color is costing you? With Salon Scale, we take the guesswork out for you, so you can cover your back bar expenses, reduce your color waste, and generate more profit in your salon. Click the link in the description to get 10% off your first year.
I love that. I love, like you just said, like, in a meaningful way. And I love, if you're listening, like, what the point that I hope that you're taking from this is, treat your Instagram more of like, bringing meaningfulness to it. Connect yourself and your passions and what drives you to what you're doing on social media. Get away from trying to copy other people, get away from trying to do it everybody else's way, and get more connected to doing it your way, and doing it in a way of like, how do you share your passions and how do you start to communicate? Because when you aren't trying to copy other people and you're not trying to do it as good as other people, and you get more aligned to what is best for you and what is your branding, what do you want to communicate to others, what do you want people to know you as, then it just becomes a part of you getting to share yourself. And how beautiful is that? Like, don't you love when somebody asks you like, hey, how are you doing? They actually care. It's like you get to share a piece of yourself, and it will naturally attract to you the people who are attracted to what you're passionate about. It'll bring people into your doors who connect to your mission, connect to what you're trying to communicate, what you're trying to, like, I love what you said, Celine, when you said, like, what breaks your heart? Like, what are you most passionate about? For me, like, for me, it's like parenting and raising kids and child development and all that stuff. And so I connect in that. It's like, how do you share more of just the work I'm doing on my own, what I'm passionate about, even in my own life, to get to be like, how do people get to know you the best? Is like, you're sharing what you're passionate about and what you stand for. And like, that is easy to connect with, because those are things that people are attracted to. And I love that a lot, Celine.
Yeah. And I think honestly, that's just like, there's no magic answer, right? And I wish I could solve the burnout for everybody, but for all of those people that struggle to post or struggle to put themselves out there, like, I mean, you talked about showing up in an authentic way. And it's funny you say that. If anybody out there is an Enneagram person, I recently did my Enneagram personality test, and it's like, I'm an Enneagram type 3. And one of the things that apparently they struggle with is authenticity. And so I kind of dug deep, and I'm like, well, what does that mean? Because like, I have no problem talking about what I've been through or sharing my struggles. But I think that sometimes there's a difference between like, telling your story, but also letting your audience know like when things aren't always perfect. Yeah. And I think that's like the difference, but there's also a time and a place to do it. Like, I think it's finding out what feels right to you. It's not just airing your dirty laundry, right? But
don't start stirring up drama.
Yeah. Like showing people who you really are. And so if you do struggle with posting in social media, like it might not feel authentic to you to be like, hey, I'm going to post about these products and I'm going to post all these, hair pictures. But then suddenly, if you can talk about, outside of yourself, something that you're involved in or that you're passionate about, like, for me, I have done a lot of work to create awareness around accessibility in my community. So I want to share that on my social media to, create awareness. And that gives a person a glimpse of like that I'm about more than just like creating a great blonde or, another promotion or another hair product, right? I think people will connect on a deeper level if you let them into like causes that you're passionate about.
Yeah, I love that because people don't just want to come to your page to be sold something. Like there comes a point when we're like, okay, we're tired of being sold things and it's not what I need right now. But
Hmm.
if people come to your page to hear more about you, and then occasionally you do drop that post of like, hey, I have this new thing happening, or even if like you had a promotion, you just even sharing like, yeah, we had this promotion in the salon, or like even bring awareness like that. I think a really big thing that I'm like hearing is it's really check your heart when it comes to your social media. If you are struggling with it, you have the jealousy, fatigue, and comparing, and social media brings up a lot of like icky feelings in you, like check your heart and where is your heart at in what you're posting and why you're posting it, and what are you trying to accomplish with your social media. If you're just posting because you think that that's what's supposed to be happening and you're following that route, like figure out why do you have a social media, what are you trying to accomplish. And even in it, like, well, I'm trying to get more people in my salon. Okay, well, that's a good, but that needs to be a byproduct of you having a passion and a drive to share who are you on social media and whatever that looks like. And we can't answer that for you. You have to answer that for you. But it is a cool, I love what we've talked about today is it's like that's available for anyone to start to create community and have boundaries and find joy in it. That's available to everybody, whether you choose to do those things and do the work to get yourself in that place of social media. But that might just be the key of the difference between struggling with social media and finding joy and passion in it, and it being a fruitful place where you're having people come into your salon and be like, man, I'm here because I read your post about body positivity and this is why I'm here. And then that stuff's going to start to, and it's going to fuel you. You can be like, wow, like I'm creating a difference not only in my salon, but I'm using social media to be able to create that difference and get it out into the world, which I love.
Yeah.
So good. So
At the end of the day, there's 1,000 people that can do the same thing as you, probably better. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, really, like, I was a blonde specialist. I mean, I traveled all around North America teaching it, and there's still a million people I can list right now that were better at it than me. So, I mean, is it really like it's boring? Like, if I'm looking for like a new like a photographer, like I will search photographers in my area, but once I'm not looking for a new photographer, I'm not a photographer, so I don't need to look at that content all day long. So it's like,
Yeah.
what are you putting on your page that actually is going to keep people coming back? Because the only one that's obsessed with hair is us. Like, I mean, our clients don't really care. Like,
Yeah.
they might look before an appointment or just because they like you. But like, as for like, if you're wanting to build a following, you need more than just another blonde picture. Like, nobody cares about your ice baby or, whatever catchphrase you're using, that we've all done and we've all regurgitated. It's
Yeah.
boring, to be quite
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. And hopefully you're listening, you're getting a lot of value out of this. I know I am, because I know like for us, like we have a coaching business, and in our Instagram, it is easier to just kind of post out, like kind of just telling information, and a lot of like we do have some value, but it's like we are currently working on like how do we get more culture, how do we get like how do we expose like our like how do we share our client stories and our staff stories, and how do we get more culture, so when people go to our page they get to know who we are as people, because they know we have an academy, they know like we have plenty of stuff out there of what we have. It's just the who, the how, and the why. Like people want to know why. Why are you in business? Why do you create a salon? Why, what has brought your success and what has been your passions? And I love that. So before we kind of wrap up here, Celine, I want to talk a little bit about like, because I know some people probably kind of came to this episode be like, I need help with social media. So in all of that, like, yes, please create community boundaries, like in all everything that we talked about. What are some tangible things that we can kind of give to the people listening of like, walk away today and start implementing this?
Yeah. So I would say like the first thing I would do is maybe grab a sheet of paper and answer that question. Because a lot of people, when I ask it, like, well, what's your why? Like, I mean, what's your why? Like, why are you doing what you do? Is it to make people feel beautiful? Is it because maybe growing up you didn't feel beautiful? Like, get honest about it. But that's why I love when Mandy says, what breaks your heart? It's a lot easier for people to answer that question.
Yeah.
It's like, what keeps you up at night? What makes you cry? Like, like write that list out. And I would first say, like, figure out like what would be the theme that you would want to talk about, right? Like, again, it doesn't have to be like a charity name and now this is who you are, but maybe it's just something as broad as self-esteem. Like, I think when it's too specific, then it's really hard to create content around it,
Yeah.
right? But if
Yeah.
it's something as simple as, like I said, body positivity, there's a million things you could wrap up into your content in your posts. If you're posting a selfie with your friends on vacation because you want to bring that in, you can tie that in with the copy. So first thing I would implement is kind of figuring out your why and like figuring out like that heart piece. And I would start, what I always say is like every picture you post, in your copy, if you can connect the dots to your why, you're good. Like you want to post a photo of you and your friends like dancing like crazy people, as long as the copy matches kind of your mission and your why, it's all good. Like,
Yeah.
I have lots of hiking pictures because that's my passion, but I'm going to connect it to, the importance of, pouring time into myself so I can be a better leader or be a better salon owner. So it's just like, how do you connect the dots?
Yeah.
So figuring out your why and like how you can start talking about it. And then, like I said, the second thing would be start connecting the dots in what you're posting. And the third thing I would say is open up that calendar and decide like how much time a week do I need, and like be specific. Like, and again, you don't have to be doing 7 posts a week. Like if you could start with posting, even scheduling out time to do 2 posts a week, and that gives you a time, maybe you want to post 4 times a week and you can post 2 times in the moment when you're feeling creative. Like it's going to be different for everybody. Some people are great at doing a whole month, some people need a week, but figure out what works for you. But I think just the first key is to actually schedule that.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, because I want everybody to, if you're listening, to feel like it's possible for you.
Mhm.
And I know that it can feel kind of daunting, and it's gonna look different for every single person listening to this episode. It's gonna look different for you. And so you got to figure it out. Like, yeah, like, this person's posting 12 times a week, whatever it looks like. Just get to a point when you're getting the ball rolling. And I love what Celine just said, get to your why first. Like, what do I want to start talking about? And once you start getting your mind, you honestly might be surprised just how much comes up for you when like you're taking a picture of a sunset and you're just like, things will start to already pop up. Like, I already know what I want to share about this. Or you'll be writing a caption and be like, okay, I'll just pick a picture from my camera reel because I have this caption I want to talk about.
Mhm.
And once you just get the ball starting to roll, it'll start to snowball and it'll become second nature to you. And it may take time, it may take a year, 2 years, 5 days, who knows, but it'll start to become easier and easier to think of what to post, when to post, how to post, and just set those boundaries for yourself. When do I have time to do this? Separate it from your personal social media time and your business social media time, and start to create that community and find your why, and just put your passion or put your energy into those things. And social media will start to kind of not correct itself, but become less of that hangover feeling that you've been getting when you open your phone. You're just like, I don't even know what to do. And 2 hours just passed and I got one post half written.
Yeah.
So I love this, Celine. This has been so powerful. I know that social media is such a big thing and a lot of people just struggle. What do I do? Where do I start? And there's so many how-tos out there of like post, like, like planner this and, get these posts out. And it's all about the logistics of posting. Not a lot of times do I feel like people talk about like the heart of it and getting behind the scenes and like, how do you take care of you when it comes to just how much is out there? And like the social media game, it's like, it's competitive. And so get away from that mindset and just get focused on like, okay, what can you do? And get more focused, like almost here of like you in terms of like, what can I accomplish? And then just start the ball rolling, and you'll be surprised how much it starts to snowball and you get to do more.
Yeah, I would say like the last thing I would really say is just being clear. Like having friends on Instagram is like being rich in Monopoly. You get in real life and it literally means nothing. So, if you're just trying to build a clientele, or you're a salon owner trying to bring traffic into your space, I mean, do we need to have, like, I'm just under 8,000 followers. I've never paid for followers. And to be honest, I don't really care. I don't want 50,000 followers from all over the world because they're not going to be my customer base. Like, what am I trying to do? Are you trying to be an influencer? Then you may need that. But if you're just trying to like surround yourself with cool people that have the same values and could actually turn into clients, it's like, get clear about what you want from it and stop feeling pressured to like have numbers because it doesn't mean anything.
Oh, man, that's so powerful. Wow. This has been so good. That is all for today that we have. Hopefully you got something out of that. Please reach out and let us know your biggest takeaways. You can find us anywhere, social media, all over. And don't be surprised if after this episode, our Instagram starts to take a shift, because I learned a lot in this episode as well, of just getting more community and out there. So thank you for joining us on today's Profitable Salon Owner podcast. Thank you so much, Celine, for joining me, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.
You've been listening to the Profitable Salon Owner Podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a review, and check us out at profitablesalon.com for more episodes, content, and to help you turn your salon into the business you've always dreamt of.